What is going on, guys? My name is Lance, and I'm bringing you guys another video here today. We got some interesting stuff to talk about. We got the relegation predictions, which I feel like is a little bit like, I think this video will be more informative rather than anything. Like, I try to make my videos entertaining, but this is going to be just straight facts, because there's a lot of people asking, like, what are the rosters, what are the teams going to this relegation tournament, what does the relegation tournament even mean? Anyway, we're going to be giving you guys the whole relegation predictions video, who I think is going to qualify for Season 3, give you guys the rosters, what's going to go down, and overall, who I think is going to get into Season 3, like I said. So, let's get right into the video. Alright, guys, so how I'm going to lay this out, I'm going to give you guys how these teams have got into this relegation tournament. Now, it's going to be at the MLG Studios, I think, like in Columbus, MLG Columbus. It's going to be held from Friday or the 19th through Sunday, which I think is like the 21st, something like that. So, going to be held through those dates, and I'm basically bringing you guys how these teams got here. So, there's going to be 16 teams, 4 of which who qualified through an online tournament. I think that was like a 60-team or a 50-team tournament. I'm not really sure exactly how, and 4 teams made it out of there. There was 8 invited teams who made it through pro points. I think if you emailed someone at MLG and you showed them your overall pro points, whoever had the top 8 highest were automatically invited to this. And the bottom 4 teams from the Season 2 tournament obviously get their spot here. Now, there are a couple things to mention. AR, obviously, Automatic Reload, has combined with XGN for this roster. I believe they're going to go under the name AR, but maybe for Season 2 they changed to XGN. I'm not sure the full extent of that. And Enigma 6, obviously they also announced a new roster for today, adding Holler and Prado to General and Ruiz. That was Justice Pro's old spot. They gave that back, or they gave it to Enigma 6 to have for this tournament. So you're not going to notice Justice isn't here, and maybe after this tournament is over, if Automatic Reload does qualify, they might have the name of XGN. So like I said, the bottom 4 teams from Season 2 are also in this tournament, making a total of 16 teams. So we're going to go off the 4 teams who actually qualified through the online qualifier, and we're going to talk a little bit about them. We have DT Purple, Mutiny, Geared for Gaming, and Vex. Obviously, a lot of people know about Vex. I believe in a tournament not too long ago, they actually did pretty well. Prophet and Fastball, or Fastballa, are a really good team, or really good players. I've heard of Ares, and I've heard of Vicious also in the past. These are some known guys. As far as I know, Fastball is a very big slayer for them. You can also do a lot of work there, so I'm looking at Vex to really make it out of the qualified teams. I'm not sure how the tournament's going to work. I don't know the teams who are going to be playing each other. I'm just going to show you guys the teams, the rosters, and overall give you guys who I think is going to move on as the top 4. So, another team, we got DT Purple, obviously off Dream Team. I believe they also have another team. I think that's like Dream Team Blue, which we'll get talking to about in a minute. They obviously have Baker, Dimmy, Evasion, and Fox. I know Baker. I believe he's been on a regular DT team in the past. I've heard of Dimmy and I've heard of Evasion before. Mutiny, I've heard a couple of these players. I've heard of Lacefield and I've heard of Slush. I think I've heard of Slush. I don't know too much about them. Geared for Gaming, I think all of their team players' names are Dylan, so that's kind of interesting. I've heard of Pickles before, and it's really the only player I've heard on that team. They also have a Canadian player in Simple as well. So those are the 4 teams that actually qualified through the online qualifier, so they will be at this tournament as well. We'll talk about the 8 teams who actually qualified through Pro Points, which are 3s Up, DT Blue, Epsilon.NA, Isolation Empire, Strictly Business, Synergy Gaming, Team Orbit, and VVV. Most of these teams, if not most of, like 90% of them, you should know who they are. If you don't, I can go over them. 3s Up, obviously Hilton's team, consisting of Strife, Khalifa, Diabolic, and Cinder. Diabolic and Cinder used to be on Rise. Khalifa's been on 3s Up, and Strife has been on this team as well. DT Blue, filled with a lot of players. Swarley, he used to be on Carnage, I believe, back in the day. Assault, Fears, obviously been on teams like Rise in the past. I believe he was on Synergy for a while. And Jump, who's been on Isolation Empire. I believe he was on Aware for a short time as well. So, pretty known lineup. Epsilon. This is a really strong team in my opinion. This is the North American team. They're going to be coming over here possibly if they're able to qualify. At least Swanee is in a way. But that roster is going to be consisting of Swanee, Remy, Nagafin, and Royalty. Royalty's kind of a new player. No one really knew about him. Apparently he's a Don. I've not seen him play very much. But from what I've heard, he has some amazing talent. So I'm interested to see him. Obviously Nagafin and Remy from the old Team Revenge squad, also on Nagafin was also on Prof. So, and we all know Swanee, one of the most known players coming over from the UK. Anyway, moving on to Isolation Empire, consisting of Dido, Llama God, Havoc, and Silly. Dido, obviously a very well-known player. Llama God, also a dominant player. I believe they released God RX a while ago, so that was a player I knew pretty well. But that's a good roster. At least Dido and Llama God are. SB, this is a team full of all kinds of guys that you guys know about. Strictly Business, going to be consisting of Anticity, Spacely, Study, and TCM. We all know Study, we all know Spacely. Anticity's been on Automatic Reload, and TCM was actually on Justice for a short time as well, if you guys aren't familiar with him. But this roster looks pretty good as well. These guys are talented. They have a roster filled with guys who I think can really make a strong push to make it in Season 3. But next roster we have is Synergy Gaming. We all know Synergy, one of the first tournaments, I believe it was like UMG. Imbos led these guys, not this exact roster, but some of these guys on the team. I think it was like Methods was on the squad for a while with him, but anyway, we obviously have Synergy consisting of Ivy, Legal, Pac-Man, and Miyagi. Miyagi has been on a bunch of teams in the past. We all know, I think he made his own team called like Ignite. For a short time, he was on a lot of those rosters like Sender and Slasher. That Noble Vanquish, or maybe it was just Noble. I think it was just Noble at the time. That was a known roster back in the day. Ivy's a pretty known player. I believe he's been on ISO in the past, and Legal has been on a lot of these teams as well. Moving on to Orbit is going to be consisting, and I like this roster a lot. Orbit's a roster that I really like. This roster is going to be consisting of Accuracy, Facento, Happy, and Burnsoff. Facento, a known player from TR. Happy's been on all kinds of rosters. AR for a while. That's really what a roster that a lot of people know him from. Accuracy's been on Aware. He has really been heard of since Aware. Whenever TCM actually got Aware's spot, Accuracy and a lot of these guys just been kind of out for themselves, and he hasn't really found a home a home roster for himself. And they also have Burnsoff also on this roster. Burns, a known player, been on AR for a very, very long time. Was on teams like Curse and Ghosts and stuff. So a very well-known player. I like this roster a lot. Moving on, we have VVV Gaming, which is going to be consisting of Fizzerp, John, Twiz, and Killa. We obviously know all these guys. Fizzerp's been on teams like SB. He's been on many teams in the past. We also have John, who's been on Strictly Business. He's been on a lot of teams as well. Twiz, if you don't know who Twiz is, he's been on teams like SB, he's been on a bunch of different squads, and Killa, who's obviously been on Optic Nation. He's obviously a world champ. He's a very, very well-known player, and we'll be talking about VVV here in just a little bit. But those are the top 8 teams and pro points. They obviously sent an email to one of the MLG people, and they obviously let them through. So those are the top 8 teams. We obviously announced the other 4 teams. We have 4 more teams remaining, which are the bottom 4 teams from Season 2, which are Automatic Reload, Enigma 6, Optic Nation, and Prophecy. Like I said, Enigma 6 wasn't even in Season 2. Justice Pro obviously gave their spot over to Enigma 6 to have. AR and XG, and I believe are combining for this tournament, and I'm not sure who they're going to take, what name they're going to take if they do qualify. We have Optic Nation, obviously with the same roster, except for Kill It. Now they have Mochella, and Prophecy, basically having the same roster. So that's every single team, basically talking a little bit about their squad, from what we've talked about so far. Now what I'm going to be doing is narrowing down a lot of these teams and talking to you guys about who I think will make it into the top 4 for Season 3. Alright, so now it is time to give my top 4 predictions. Obviously, the top 4 teams who move on from this tournament will all be moving on. From this, I think you get like $5,000 if you win first, like $2,000, and so on and so forth. But no one's really here about the money. If there was no money involved, these teams would still be here. They want to qualify for Season 3 and get in the league. Because if you get in the league, man, that's like one of the biggest things you could do. You're one of the top, teams in Call of Duty esports, and you get your name known out there. You're constantly having a schedule to go by and whatnot. Just being in the league is just... It's just great. It's like a big safety net. You don't have to worry about your squad. A lot of the time, you can have a lot of opportunities, to say the least. So, first team that I want to mention, one of the squads I think is going to make it out of here, is going to be Prophecy. Prophecy's roster is so good. I'll read it off again. It's actually Aches, Apathy, Aqua, and Octane. Octane's a very, very good player. Was on Justice previously. Aqua on TR. He's been a very dominant force on a lot of the teams he's been on. Apathy, amazing Slayer. At times, he's kind of inconsistent. When he turns up, man, he can be one of the best players in the game. Aches has struggled a little bit so far in Advanced Warfare, but he can really lead this team. He has a lot of young talent in Aqua and Octane, and I think if him and Apathy can kind of nail down that chemistry, which it seems like they have been, they could be a dominant force. I think Prophecy will make it through. It is a double elimination bracket as far as I know, so if a team does lose, they can go through the losers bracket and still make it out. As far as I don't know what teams play each other first. I don't think it's been released as of yet. But Prophecy, to me, a very strong team. I think just about every single other person has Prophecy coming out in their top 4. But I think Prophecy will. I think they're a really good roster. I think they can come out. I think they'll make changes, honestly, if they get to the Pro League. I think we might see some changes go down for them. What will that be? That's for a future video. Next team I'm going to talk about was actually from the top 8 invited teams from Pro Points, which is actually going to be Epsilon. I like this Epsilon roster a lot. I really do. I think they play with each other at an event not too long ago. At least I think it was like Swanee and Remy played. I can't remember if Nagafin was on the roster and Royalty wasn't, but those guys have played together in the past. I don't think they had the best placing they wanted to, but I like this roster. I like this team a lot. Swanee, a very, very well-known player, if not one of the best well-known players, from overseas and whatnot, proven himself countless amount of times. He's been on Optic Nation and whatnot. I think that's where he got a lot of his knowingness from. A lot of people like to support Swanee. Remy has constantly shown, a lot of his play whenever he was on TR. Nagafin as well. He's been on Prof. I'm pretty sure he was on Prof for a short time before he got dropped. There also. Royalty is, to me, I don't know how he's going to play. I've heard he's amazing, so keep that in mind. I've never seen Royalty play in my life. At least I don't remember. I'm sure I've seen him play, but I just don't remember. Royalty to me is going to be that factor. I think from what I've heard from a lot of pro players, from what I've heard from casters and people who know a lot about the the scene for him, I guess the AM scene, I'm not really sure. They say he's great, so I'm gonna have to go off of that. If you guys know about him, let me know in the comments, because I honestly just never heard of the guy. But from what I've heard, he's an absolute don. So to me, Prophecy and Epsilon are 2 out of the 4 teams that I think will move on into Season 3. Now, the next squad we have is actually, it's kind of hard. Like, to be honest, I have a couple of teams, I honestly have in the top. In the 3rd and 4th spot, I have 4 teams that I think could possibly be in that 3rd and 4th spot as well. Now keep in mind, I'm not placing these guys. I'm not saying Prophecy's gonna get 1st, Epsilon's gonna get 2nd, this team's gonna get 3rd. That's just the top 4 I'm saying. I'm not gonna say like this team will get 1st, that team will get 2nd. While that is into play, like people care if they get 1st because there's money involved, there's pro points involved. I'm just gonna be naming you guys off those out of order, so keep that in mind. In 3rd, I'm going to say the Optic Nation gets out. I think that they have a strong group of guys. Imbos, Miracles, Ricky, and Mochilla, all known players. Mochilla, obviously a fill-in for Killa. As far as I know, they said this is the roster for the Season 3 relegation tournament. This is not their official roster, according to their tweets. Now, they could say, well, that's implied. I'm not sure. From what they've said, from what they tweeted, this is the Season 3 relegation team. So keep that in mind, keep that in the back of your head. I think Optic Nation is going to be a very strong team coming into this tournament. I can definitely see them taking down the likes of, like Synergy. I can see them taking down like Vex, Orbit. They have some strong players on their team. Ricky, to me, is going to be a very big factor. Mochilla is going to slay, at least from what we've seen. Miracles can also go off at times as well. So I definitely think that Optic Nation will go through. If not, that's very massive. Keep in mind, this is one of the teams that's like either make it or break it. I don't know what would happen to Optic Nation if they're not in Season 3. Will they disband? I have no idea, so don't think that I'm saying that at all. I'm just saying if Optic Nation is not in the league, that is massive for their team as a whole. Like, a lot of these squads, they'll be like, oh, we didn't make it. That's very unfortunate, but we'll stick together. Owen, on the other hand, I'm not sure how that would work. Now, the final squad, or the final team that I have moving on, is basically divided amongst 3 different teams. I'll name off who they are. It's actually between VVV, AR, aka XGN, whichever one, and Strictly Business. I think, to me, Strictly Business has the will to want to be in the league, and Tisty has a lot to prove. Spacely wants to be in the league bad. Study also wants to prove himself, and TCM has just been a great slayer. No one really knows a whole lot about him as well. AR, aka XGN, to me is a very strange roster, but I can see them working out. BL Fire, Felony, Lawless, and Merc. I know Merc wants to get in the league very, very badly. He wants to be on a squad. I think Merc would probably I wouldn't say he'd leave that team, but he might stick with them after if they do make it in Season 3. And VVV, the only problem, I would normally say VVV without a doubt. But to me, VVV, in a way, they've been having a lot of struggles. I've been watching their streams. Fizzer Pajan have been getting into it. Killa has threatened to leave. He said he's going to TK. I have no idea what that is. TK is still looking for a fourth, so maybe if they don't make it, maybe if they do, he gets traded to TK for someone else or he leaves. I don't know what would happen with VVV. But to me, I'm going to say VVV is my first team to get knocked out. I like this roster a lot. They have a lot of strong players. John, in particular, is one of the best slayers that I've seen whenever he wants to go off. There's been a lot of struggles with this team, and I'm going to say that out of those 3, VVV is the team that I'm going to knock out. As far as XGN, aka Automatic Reload, and VVV go, or excuse me, SB goes, I'm going to say Strictly Business will be that 4th and final team. They have a lot to prove. Well, I'm not the biggest fan of the roster. Anticity can slay, TCM can slay, Study can also do a little bit in between, and Spacey is going to be that primary OBJ player. I think these guys are a dominant team. I think, not a dominant, but I think they can work together really well. I think they can maybe snag that 4th spot, or at least have a spot in the Season 3 relegation tournament. I think they'll be moving on to Season 3. So out of the 16 teams, I'm going to say it's going to be Prophecy, Epsilon, Optic Nation, and SB closing us out. Those are going to be, in my opinion, the 4 teams making it out of this tournament. So let me know down in the comments, guys. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like. It always does help me out. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out.